You've entered Bookstorm. Your favorite authors are here to dive down deep into their best-selling books. Stay tuned to brave the storm.
Welcome back to BOOKSTORM Podcast. I'm your co-host, Kristen Civiletto. And listeners, you're tuning in from all over the world. We've got you in 105 countries and territories, all 50 states. And we know why you're coming back again and again. It's because we are bringing you your very favorite authors, as some of the most fantastic authors that are writing ever. And today is no exception. We are so excited because we have returning to the show a fantastic thriller writing duo. We have Isabella Maldonado and Jeffery Deaver coming back. Welcome, Jeffery and Isabella.
Oh, thank you. It's so good to be here again.
Now,
We're thrilled.
I know we're so excited because, first of all, I'm very invested in your characters. So that's one of the reasons why. And I'm dying to ask a few questions about what's going on. But I would love to tell our listeners a little more about your background. Our listeners love to hear, what you're up to outside of this particular book and some of your interests. So I wanted to just bring up a little bit of that. And first of all, you both had come on the show to discuss Fatal Intrusion. And that kicked off a series with a new duo that we are all invested in. We have Carmen Sanchez, and she is with the Homeland Security. And we also have a private security expert, and that is Jake Heron. And these two, they complement each other in so many cool ways. And we're going to explore that today. But I just want to tell you that duo right there, we want to see more of them. So I'm really happy that we have book number 2, and I'm going to ask you what's coming next, of course. All right, Isabel, let me start with you just a little bit in terms of some background. First of all, you have been nominated for the Edgar Award, which is extremely prestigious. You're a Wall Street Journal best-selling author, and you have worn a gun and a badge in your previous career path. And I was wondering if you could just tell us about that.
Sure. Yeah. I wore a gun and badge for 22 years. So and where I worked was in Fairfax County, and it's inside the Beltway of DC. So in that area, and a large department, very, busy with a lot of things going on there. And it was by the time I retired, I had attained the rank of captain. And my last position was Commander of Special Investigations and Forensics. And I also attended the FBI National Academy in Quantico, where I lived for 3 weeks on campus, sort of embedded there. And so I feel like I was able to be very steeped in both local and federal kinds of investigations. And it gives me just enough knowledge to be dangerous when I write.
Well, it also gives your writing an interesting depth and a truth to it that feels real. I mean, when you're reading your books, you know that you are a person who has been there before. And I think that's really neat. You're also the first Latina woman to hold the rank that you did when you were with the Fairfax County. Was it with I want to say the captain of the police department. So was it? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Now, in addition to that, of course, you've had a breadth of background as a law enforcement officer. And so your books do draw on all of that, whether it's hostage negotiations or investigations, as you mentioned. And you have a couple different characters that you have created for some of your books. And one of them, of course, is with your co-author, with Jeffery Deaver. And that is the Sanchez and Heron series that we're here to talk about today.
Indeed.
So, all right, Jeffery, I want to talk a little bit about your background. You're an international #1 best-selling author. Your novels have appeared on bestsellers lists around the world. In fact, I think your books are sold in 152 countries, and Isabella as well. You've got books sold in 52 countries. That is pretty awesome. They've been translated into many languages, and you have served 2 terms as the president of the Mystery Writers of America and have gotten many, many prestigious awards. We're just so excited for you. Your career is very inspiring.
Oh, thank you. Well, I say I'm an overnight sensation over 45 years. I started writing when I was quite young, when I was a little boy, actually. But, there are no prodigy writers. There may be prodigy musicians and artists and painters, but writers need to live for a little while. So I did a variety of careers. I was a folk singer for a while, a journalist like yourself, an attorney, and then finally in the 30s, 1980s, I began to write seriously. I felt I had enough depth, and I quit. Oh gosh, it was like 88 or 89. Quit my full-time job, and have been writing full-time as a novelist and short story writer ever since.
Oh, we're pretty thrilled about that. I think you had told me you're a recovering lawyer. So
Well, people say, Jeff, you write crime books now, and you were an attorney back in the day. So you must have been a criminal lawyer. And I say, well, I worked on Wall Street and I represented large international banks. So you draw your own conclusions about the criminal clients I had.
say no more. Now, your book, A Maiden's Grave, was made into an HBO movie starring James Gardner and Marley Matlin. And The Bone Collector, your novel, became a release from Universal Pictures. Many of us have seen that movie. It was amazing. Denzel Washington and Angelina Jolie. I love right now, by the way, that you've got a series, and I think season 3 is about to drop. It's called Tracker, and it's a primetime series based on your novel, The Never Game, and starring
That's right.
Justin Hartley. So that one's coming, right? Season 3?
Yeah, season 3 in October. I don't remember exactly the date. See, I just wrote the series. I'm the writer. They don't really consult with me about a lot of things, but in seriousness, I don't really want to get involved with that. I absolutely love working with Isabella, but when we work together, I've never written with anybody else. And a TV show is a project by committee. So you meet in writers' rooms and you discuss things and you go back and forth. That's not for me. I get to work with Isabella, sit here with my dogs at my feet, and kind of the master of my own domain.
That sounds pretty good. Well, I want to show a picture of this cover for The Grave Artist. That's what we're here to talk about today. And again, as you referenced, this is a series that you are writing with Isabella, and this is book 2 in the series, right?
Yeah.
This is a really cool cover, by the way. I love it because it's got a lot of action to it and a lot of movement. And that's one of the things the two of you do really well together. You've got a fantastic plot, a lot of detail, but you also notch it up a little bit. So we're talking about a serial killer. But again, you take it to a level that's a little bit unusual and a little bit different. And I want to briefly talk about that without giving away any spoilers, of course. In this story, we've got a killer who is looking for perfect couples. To him, that's a perfect victim. In fact, he becomes known as the honeymoon killer. And in this story, of course, he sets his sights on a different couple by the end. But I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about the background of what's going on in this story without the spoiler.
Sure. Well, Isabella came up with the concept of the honeymoon killer. So do you want to start and I'll jump in at some point?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll start a little bit with that. The idea was to try to do something different. I mean, this is so Jeff and I both, we've written quite a few books. He's, a lot. And but so we need to challenge ourselves. What can we do to elevate to the next level, to do something different, fresh, unexpected? And so, instead of your classic serial killer, kind of like guy running around in a creepy van trying to get people, it's like, okay, we've seen that so much. What is something really different? And so, and also, the femme Jep and the child Jep were like, let's get away from that to something really different. But then he would need a different motivation. So the idea was, well, what about couples? What if he wanted to target? And for him, and this was really interesting, it wasn't just the groom or just the bride. It would be either one. So then that obviously led to a conversation. And this is what Jeff and I love to do. We brainstorm together. So then it's like, okay, what kind of psychopathy would lead you to, like, you really don't care that much about the victim? And then we'll lead into Jeff now, because then Jeff had this brilliant brainwave about what about serial killing 2.0?
Well, that's exactly what Isabella said is true. We're always looking for something that will fit our template, which is a fast-moving thriller, takes place over only a couple of days. But we want to give our readers something new because this is all about the readers. It's not about us. It's about the readers, giving them something they enjoy. And so we thought, well, let's notch up serial killing, but make it not more victims, but a different type of crime that he wants to commit. Now, I'll digress for a little bit and say another aspect of our writing is that all the characters and even and perhaps especially the villains have to be fully fleshed out. They have to be real characters, not caricatures. A caricature villain is somebody like me with my hairstyle but a ponytail and wearing a leather jacket and a very slimy, sleazy character. That's not going to work. Readers deserve fully formed characters. So we thought, well, let's talk about this guy for a while. He wants to up the ante with serial killing. And we did that because he commits a murder. This isn't a giveaway, and it leaves him kind of cold. And that echoed the fact that he was a failed painter, a failed sculptor. He wanted to have that. He had that drive, but he wasn't able to do it. So bang, came the idea. He'll combine the two. He'll kill people and create sort of we call it a tableau of murder and grief. And he goes from there.
Yeah. First of all, I'm not surprised with these creative ideas because the both of you have, other interests, other career. And especially for you, Jeffrey, you've got this background with folk singing, with music, other forms of art and expression. And ultimately, that's a big theme running through this story is this idea of expression. And I want to ask you about that because as you pointed out, and again, this isn't a spoiler, right away, we see Damon Gar, our suspected killer, and he's relishing the idea of observing someone else's grief. That's where this couple aspect comes in. So I wanted to ask you about this. Is his interest in these couples kind of a macabre form of art expression, or is this just evil?
Well, I guess I'd say it's both in a way, because again, as I was saying, he kind of combines his frustrated art, and we would perceive it as evil. But of course, remember, the villain is the hero of his own story. And so, yeah, he's a bad guy. There's no question about that. But to him, this is simply an extension of Da Vinci or, Rembrandt. He's creating something that wasn't there and that he relishes it.
Yeah. And,
If you think about, well, also, if you think about what Jeff was saying earlier about how, kind of being a failed artist, I mean, you can imagine one of the most frustrating things about being a failed artist is it's like you've created something, but no one cares. You feel like it's not going to live on beyond you. Well, with this, he is creating his tableau. And he relishes the fact that the impact of what he has done will live on forever. As a matter of fact, through generations of a family's grief and mourning, he can enjoy it now, but know that forever that what he did will impact others.
Mhm.
Yeah, you both really highlighted the twisted nature of the thinking of somebody who goes completely in this evil direction because
Mhm.
it makes sense to him,
It does.
And it's certainly when we read the story, as people who are not serial killers, hopefully,
Mhm.
we are thinking in terms of, my God, how could somebody get this off track in the way that their personality was formed? So I want to ask you about that too, because that was a very interesting theme running through this story. We start to bit by bit learn about a governess that Damon Gar had when he was growing up, and she's referred to as Mrs. Spalding, and she was an older woman. And I wanted to ask you, what type of role did her kind of nurturing play in forming Damon? And I was wondering, do you think that maybe he was a canvas for her and her expression of something?
Well, I think Isabella created her. So do you want to jump in and talk about her a little bit? And she's quite a piece of work, I will say.
Yeah. Well, I had to, I mean, it's like it's important, again, to have a fully realized, fully fleshed out character. You have to make this person three-dimensional. So you need to really think about where they got to where they are. And something that you said earlier also makes a lot of sense when you were mentioning about how it made sense to him what he did. And that's exactly, now I will tell you this, I pull this from my experience dealing with actual criminals. We, as like the public, will look at a violent criminal and we can be like, what were you thinking? But to them, it makes perfect sense. It's logical. A lot of times, I can't tell you how many times I've had, someone in an interview say something to me like, well, I had no choice. It's like, well, yeah, you really did, but in their minds, they actually didn't. They literally couldn't see it any other way because of the constrictures of how they were, how they view the world. So it's like, okay, we need to give this guy a worldview that sort of twists into this. So creating a governess with issues of her own and have her be extremely formative was very important. And then Jeff kind of created his father as another aspect that played into him.
You bring up a very good point, Kristen, because these are thrillers. We want people to read them in one sitting, sweaty palms. And I'll be honest with you, because there is yet another sequel. Well, there's sequel one, and there will be another sequel. We don't kill off our characters. We never do. Should be a frightening but happy experience. But when people close one of our books, we want them to have a little bit to think about. And one of the broader issues we explored here, and these are not treatises. This is just a sweaty palm thriller, but we looked at a few other broader issues, and one was the nature v nurture element of crime, which comes up quite a bit. And Gar, our character, was really the perfect storm, because we go into a fair amount, not too digressively, but a fair amount about his brain chemistry, which is quite interesting. And this is true of most, if not all, serial killers, that you can, I can't pronounce all the parts of the brain, but you can run scans, you can do blood tests and so forth, and see that there's something wrong with them. Their mind is altered in some way. For instance, lack of affect completely, no emotion, zero emotion, but it's more significant than that. But that alone is not enough. When you combine that with someone like Miss Spaulding, the rather bizarre governess, and a completely neglectful father, then we have someone like David Garr. Are we saying go out there and get help? Well, maybe it's not a bad idea if you have a series of influences like this. But we just want to give some depth to it and give people something more to think about when they close the last page.
Absolutely. I was thinking even in terms of your character names, we have Gar, we have Heron, these are two natural creatures of the natural world. And so I was really thinking about that issue of, what do we have here? Do we have somebody who by nature it kills? What about somebody who by nature protects? And so it was really interesting.
Yeah, but I just have to say the first thing that occurred to me: a gar is a fish and a heron is a bird that eats fish. So
Yes.
it never occurred to me before, but we will use that, Kristen.
Yeah, it's good.
Your book is, I think, filled with different aspects like that. You've got a lot of themes running through that do make you think after you turn the last page. Well, another theme that runs through all of your stories, especially with this partnership, is the relationship between law enforcement officers and, some of their other agents or people that they work with. Now, here, in this case, Sanchez is a law enforcement officer, but we also have her working very closely with Jake, who is a private security person. And I thought there was an interesting quote from Frank Tandy, one of the characters in this story. He says, "You know everything about your partner, sometimes more than a wife or husband." So I wanted to ask you if that level of intimacy is laying a solid foundation for Sanchez and Heron, or if this is maybe a little bit too close because they're very strong personalities. I'm just wondering if you're kind of toying with that idea of intimacy here.
Well, I always have the idea in this book as well as all books. There's the crime. Are we going to catch Gar before he kills again? That's very important. Are we going to catch Spider, the villain from our first book, Fatal Intrusion, before he kills again? And that's true, but as you pointed out, most readers are not, we hope, serial killers or have had experience with serial killers, but everybody has relationships. And so what I call the soap opera element is very strong. It's very tried and true in detective and crime fiction. And so we wanted to make sure that that level of emotional engagement is there as well between the two of them.
Well, back in the day, I think there were pulp fiction writers who would write kind of like a detective or whatever that seemed to have absolutely no personal life. But nowadays, that's not what people want. It's not realistic. And certainly, having been in law enforcement for as long as I did, I mean, I can attest to the fact that when you are off your shift, you do not turn off and then go into stasis until the next time you're supposed to turn back on and go back to work. You go home to whatever problems are going on in your life, and you got to deal with that, and you got to deal with, also what's going on. So it's important, and that's why we wanted to make sure that each of them had their own personal lives, their own challenges, and sometimes it works at cross purposes, other times they're supportive, but yeah, it adds in more realism there.
When we first envisioned the characters, we spent a lot of time, hours and hours, trying to flesh them out. And one of the things we decided was that they can't be all that similar. There has to be a connection between them, but sometimes opposites attract. And the opposites that we came up with were that Carmen is a sworn law enforcement officer, and that means you play by the rules. Jake is a former, well, he's a felon. It's not a surprise. He did black hat hacking. That's the bad hacking, as the name suggests. And it was for what he felt was a good cause, and probably in a way it was, but still it was a crime. And that he does not, as we say, color within the lines. And so that's a continual source of tension between them. And we have a lot of fun with, they're on an investigation. And of course, Jake says, well, here, we do this or do that. And Carmen will say, well, Jake, there's this pesky little thing called the Fourth Amendment. And you kind of have to play by the rules. Otherwise, the bad guys get away. And so he says, yeah, but technically that's true. And she says, no, not technically at all. That's wrong to do. So there's been a lot of compromise and discussion between them because what true relationship and friendship is not without its speed bumps.
I love that you said that too, because that's another source of tension between these two is Carmen's driving. And she may be a rule follower, but she pushes the limits, boy, when she drives.
Yeah. Yes.
I like that aspect. All right. You had alluded to something earlier, and I want to go back to that. We have more than one character who has a very complicated relationship or a very complicated inner self as a result of losing a parent. And so I want to kind of focus in a little bit on Carmen Sanchez and her sister, because Carmen had to step in and act as a parent to her sister, Selena. And I love that character, by the way, Selena, because she's a little headstrong. She does her thing, and I love it. But they're really trying to navigate these roles as sisters, but also sisters who one of them is also a parent. And I want to see if you can just comment on that a little bit, because this relationship is very fraught. Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, we wanted it to be fraught. I mean, if you think about it, we wanted it to be a situation, where Carmen would be conflicted because she was a caregiver for a while, but now Selena is like in college. She's 20. She's not a little one anymore. She doesn't need raised, but yet Carmen still has these maternal feelings and, wants to manage her, but obviously Selena will chafe against that. And as a lot of young people do, Selena is a little hot-headed at times, but it's because she passionately wants answers. And I mean, she was also traumatized by what happened with, her father's death. And that's something that actually comes up in the first book, but then we really explore it in the second book.
And there's an issue that Jake too has. This is a theme we have throughout the book, and that is his parents, who are members of a cult, which ironically was named The Family with a capital F, and they neglected their real family, lowercase f. That's Jake and his brother, much to their dismay. Did that send Jake onto the road of black hat hacking? Well, possibly. We don't really explore that. His brother, Rudy, turned out to be a perfectly fine person, good guy. But that too is a loss of a parent. And that's a theme that continues through both books and will continue into the next book, which I guess is a bit of a spoiler alert, only in the sense I gave away there will be a third book. If we were waiting for a big reveal, I just blew it. Sorry about that.
Oh, we weren't.
That's okay. But and we're going to go back to it in a second, but I want to tell you that is one of the reasons why people are following you and buying these books, because they are investing characters who have a backstory and a future. And that's what we also see developing here is where is this going? Where are these relationships going? So I need you to write that next one.
Don't expect us to answer that one. I'm sorry. We're suspense writers, and we'll have. We can say the bad guys generally get caught, but the future of Jake and Carmen, oh, that's just a tease I'm going to have to leave out there.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it. Now, you alluded to the fact, of course, that you do have another book coming down the pipe. And I was wondering if there's anything else that you can share about some of your other interests that are what's going on.
Well, Isabella, why don't you say that you've got, let me count them, 5 books coming out next year?
Yeah, not on purpose, but yes, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I have actually, I guess it's 4 series that I write. So one of them is with Jeff, so 3 of my own series.
Okay.
And they're all very different from each other in many ways. And so I'm back to a series that I started set in Phoenix about a Phoenix homicide detective a while ago, and I'm back to her, and I'm having so much fun. It's like a reunion. So I have those books coming out next year and some new stuff and new news, and it's very exciting. And then Jeff and I think our Sanchez and Heron #3, I think it'll be coming out like maybe in late fall, like November or something.
Excellent. Excellent. Jeff,
And
you want to share anything?
I'm doing I just finished my latest Lincoln Rhyme book. That's the character from The Bone Collector. The title for that will be out in May of next year. That's called The Collateral Heart. And then I'm currently writing my new Coulter Shaw book, outlining my new Coulter Shaw book, the character from Tracker. That will be published in, oh my gosh, is this 27? Huh. Exhausts me even to think of. And meanwhile, I'm I have actually a short story collection coming out from Putnam entitled Dead Ends, plural. And then I write for Amazon Original Stories as well. And I have a short story. It actually is kind of a short story for me. It's about 22,000 words, so not as long as some of mine, but it's called Bulletproof. And it's one of my more current events oriented stories, and that is quite a landmine one needs to tread carefully on nowadays, but I'll leave you in that suspense. But that will be, originally it's a Kindle only because it's Amazon Original Stories, but after a certain period of time, like a year, they release the rights and I publish it in print form. So that's what I've got going on. I feel like
Excellent.
a slacker after hearing what he's about.
No, we're both busy.
I could tell. Well, we're excited because we love what you write. You're phenomenal writers. And I'm going to tell our listeners, The Grave Artist, absolutely pick it up. And I hope that they also go to your websites because, they can see the other books that you've got, the other series, and the other projects that you're working on, which I think is really, really cool. Jeffrey, you're at Jeffery Deaver fraught.com, isabellamaldonado.com. You're both
Mhm.
very active on social media. I know, Isabella, you're on Facebook, on Threads, on Instagram, on X. And Jeffrey, people can find you and all of those places except X, I believe.
Mhm.
That's correct. I'm not an ex person. I'm not an
Gotcha.
ex man. How's that? That's pretty
An
clever.
X-Men.
I got it. Well,
Yeah.
I want to thank you for coming on the show to talk about the Grave Artist. We're so excited for you, and we're looking forward to what's coming next, that you've let the cat
Mhm.
out of the bag, or the
Yep.
dog, I should say, because that's your writing partner.
That's
And
right.
and just thank you so much for coming on the show. We're really grateful.
It's
Thank
been a
you. Great
pleasure.
questions and a wonderful conversation. Thank you, Kristen.
As always, take care now.
Bye.
All right, listeners, what a great discussion with Isabella and Jeffrey. I just love having them on. They think so deeply about their stories, but somehow they also are page turners and entertaining, and you just can't put them down. I want to tell you about who we have coming up. We've got J.A. Jantz, The Girl from Devil's Lake, Gareth Brown, The Society of Unknowable Objects, Mary Alice Monroe, Where the Rivers Merge, Daniel Silva, An Inside Job, Don Winslow, The Final Score, Lou Burney with Crooks, and Joanne Harris, the prequel to Chocolat with Vienne. We have Christina Baker Klein and Ann Burt with Please Don't Lie, Laura Griffin, Innocence Road, Alma Katsu with Fiend, and we continue to grow every week. We're so thankful that you're sharing our social media, that you're tuning in. You know where to find us, BOOKSTORMPodcast.com. We're on Instagram, on X, we're on YouTube, and we know why you keep coming back again and again. It's because your favorite authors, best-selling authors, are here on Bookstorm Podcast.